Well, welcome here to Let's Fly VFR. Today we're going to take a little run in the Cessna. Thought we'd go down to Aldinga, take a straight trip over the city and down and have a look at the new release of X Plance 11.30 Beta 1. It's certainly been a release that we've all been waiting for, and let's go and have a look and see how it comes up to all the hype. So let's put our flaps away, and there's lots of little things to look into, so one little flight in the aircraft is certainly not going to be enough. So let's go for a bit of a look out. Now we have ATC that's been updated. I'm going to leave that for now, but we are going to go out and have a look at the actual overall performance, because that's what I'm certainly have been interested in. There's been improvements to the ground handling, so our taxiing around should get a lot better. Let's take this down here and we'll have a look and see how it goes. So certainly it's running really smoothly, although I'm only getting 22, 23 FPS at the moment. So let's see how that goes. Now, just to quantify, I am running this at the 4K DSR, so I hope it looks nice. And we are also running everything pretty much at max. Certainly I'm running it full on the detail, or on the... I'll show you all the things in a second anyway. We'll have a look at those before we taxi out. We'll come down here too. So we're not screeching as well, which is really good. Normally we'd be screeching and running around all over the place. So let's move over to the left here, and we'll see how that all goes. So let's pull over to the bay here on the side, because there's plenty of aircraft running around. New Lancairs and other Cessnas and things like that running around. Let's turn around. So you'll notice it's not squeaking. Normally it would squeak and carry on and all the rest of it. So let's just put our brake on, and we'll do a quick run up, and then we'll move on from there. I'll show you my current settings, which are, for me, pretty impressive. Certainly the fact that this is right up. When I first started it today, I had reflections were up, world objects were up a little bit higher. This was back about middle, and I think the visual effects. So it's like always, it's about balancing it. Default settings, it is actually running. Ooh, it's going to play up again. Okay, it's still running at 3360 by 2100. Just a little bit below the actual figures for 4K because of the monitor that I have. The monitor I have is not quite 1080p. It's one of those oldies that I think I've mentioned on a few occasions. So let's get all this stuff turned on. Let's just run this up to 1700. Got plenty of fuel. All the temperatures and everything are already up. Let's roll that back. Little fall off. Pick it back up. Rolls off and recovers. Nice, that's all we want. So we'll get that right. Put this back on. We'll have a little look around. Who's around us at the moment? Anyone? Pretty smooth for 23, 24 FPS. Something I noticed that I don't think I've seen previously is this. You can see the sun on the windscreen, which I'm pretty sure was never really there. It was always just a nice bit of clear glass. So that's a little bit that's changed maybe. And I noticed in a little flight I had earlier today, some of the wind effects, the way it rolls is really good. It's more what I would have expected you know, back flying my Jabiroos and stuff like that when I was doing that a few years back now. So let's head on out. We'll check left. Check right. All clear. A little squeak on the brakes, that's fine. We're running zoom level 19 on the airports, so the detail here, and it's zoom level 16 for the rest of the local area. So we're all lined up. I notice it does get a little bit dark. It's a bit darker than I've previously seen it. There's a little bit more effect to the lighting within the cockpit, which I think is quite realistic. Now this is the real test getting going. Just keeping the feet balanced nicely. That feels a lot more positive. 55, 60, just a little touch back on the stick, and it's flying off really well. What I noticed was the side forces when rolling were really good. That stuck out to me on the quicker flight I had earlier when I was just testing performance and tuning the system. I noticed because when you roll a real aircraft, and there's a Lancair off to my right, so just be careful. When you roll shallow, if you do a shallow turn, let's say up to 10, 20 degrees or something like that, and you let go of the stick, once the real aircraft will level itself, it will come back to level. Once you get to about 30 odd degrees or so, when you put it on in a steep turn, it will tend to hold that attitude. But if you go to something steeper and you're heading more towards 30, 45 degrees, it'll tend to want to overbank. It'll tend to want to keep going in a real aircraft. So that's something we might have a little look at today and just see whether that is something that's become true here with the Cessna. I think the best thing to do is to fly the Cessna. I could fly the Robin because you know I like that a lot, but zoom level 19 around is nuts. It's just nuts. Really fantastic. I've got a new video coming out. I wanted to update my video on doing the ortho work as well, so I've got that one mostly done. And if you're interested in doing that, I'm going to probably take my other ones down on how to do it so there's no confusion, and just leave the most recent version of how to do it. I've got, really it's in 4 parts. It's creating basic tiles, 1, creating zoom levels, creating custom zoom, so stepping it out so that you can do that, which is something a lot of people aren't aware of. I don't think you put a couple of boxes around airport and leave it, but you can step it so you have zoom level 19 right around the airport itself, and then for let's say 3 or 4 Ks around it, you can step it to a slightly lower level, which still looks fantastic as you descend into the airport. So let's just level out at 2,500. That will do for now. That'll give you an opportunity to have a look maybe at the city as we go down past, and we'll go down and try and find Aldinga, which is pretty much south of the city. I've flown down to Aldinga a few times in the Jabiroos, and it's a good flight, but being a sports pilot I can't actually fly this way. I have to go out, duck down, I have to fly out that from Gawler, which is up to the north here, out over the hills, follow the hills down on the other side, and then fly back in over the hills south of Adelaide. So I have to go the long way to do it. So, but that's life. I love having my sports pilot license. I'm looking forward to being able to get back and maybe do some more flying again in the future, but can't do that right now. So let's head down and get some trim. Now I noticed today, I hadn't taken a lot of notice, we talk about VFR flying a lot, which is what the channel is really all about, but if you notice down here on the trim, if you can use the E there on the takeoff, is about the right place to get it trimmed out, just to the mid to the bottom of it, depending on how much power you've got plugged in, and it tends to sit there and get level. We're just descending a little at the moment, so we just back it off a couple of ticks, and we'll see how that goes. I'll bring the power back just a little, because you wouldn't be running it flat out. does get a little bit sensitive, doesn't it? We just lift ourselves up a bit. Now I'll have to make some changes to the city because with the zoom level 19 tile I've got it around the city as well. You can actually see the Adelaide Cricket Ground, and I've got I think it's one from Manchester or something like that that I found in the tiles in the libraries to replace. Let's go down and have a look. Now I'm running 22, 23 FPS at the moment. Let's head on down and we'll fly close past the city. Now I built all this city, all this high stuff. It's just quite generic, because when you fly in International Airport, which is just over to the right there, I think you'd be able to see that. You fly down to the right, just over our right shoulder from the aircraft, and fly in. So you fly past the city all the time. We've got some big hotels and stuff down here, and I think that one would be a big hotel. That's the Marriott, I think, is over that side. There's actually another one on here because we have the casino, which hides on this side of town. It looks pretty damn good. That's all hospital, the old hospital. And considering what are we at? We're at 900 feet. Looks pretty good. The city doesn't actually come up like that. It's pretty flat. This is West Terrace down here, South Terrace, and then the actual sporting grounds are over here. So not sporting, the show grounds, the Adelaide show. So let's climb back up a little bit. But the detail level is just magnificent. If you haven't got photo scenery for yourself, then if you're in the US, you get pretty good basic scenery. But the ortho just makes it so much nicer. And this roll, now this feels like it has weight now, and my joystick's pretty old and tired, and it doesn't tend to feel like it's got any weight to it. It was a force feedback, but it doesn't seem to work very well anymore, because I've been flying with it for so many years. But when you roll the aircraft, it just feels like it has a little bit of weight. There seems to be a momentary lag before it reacts to what you ask it to do, which is quite realistic. Let's get some more altitude, we'll climb up. Aldinga is actually a really nice little airport to go down to for a coffee, $100 coffee. It's a bit more than that by the time you fly back. So there's the main airport. I'll tell you what, let's go over and have a look at the airport as well. I think it would be lost. Okay, we're not doing a real world flight. We'll just show you the scenery around here and the performance as well. I'm at 30 frames per second at the moment, probably because we have the sea out here. That's certainly going to make it a lot better. But I'm pretty impressed with what Laminar have done with this update. So let me just fly around here for you and give a look. So this close-in area was all zoom level 19 again. But you can see it doesn't affect the FPS very much. If you can see them, I'm running 24, 25 up there at the moment. So when I head out to sea, it actually it climbs up a little bit. I was fairly perplexed. I thought, oh, what have they done when I first uploaded or downloaded the new update, thinking that, you know, I was expecting to see 10 or 15 more FPS on top of what I had. But what has actually happened is it's more efficient with the system. At the settings I had, instead of having 4 gig of VRAM loaded up or something very close to it, I found myself with a gig spare. Hence I've been able to push the level of the texture level right up to it's about 3.8 now, but it's running flat out. Let me show you again, guys, in case you weren't here initially. So originally my settings were here, this was about here, this was about here, and that was up a little bit. And where it was, I was getting 19 or 20. It was still not bad, but and again, I'm running just short of 4K with the DSR, guys. So out of a 8350 at 4.4 gig and a 1050 Ti, I think that personally is pretty impressive. because all the other guys that I see on YouTube channels all have i7s and fortunate enough to have 1050s. I'm sure there's a few people heading towards the new 2080, 1080 Ti's I should say, heading towards the new 1080s or 2080s. Not sure if that's a thing yet. Once we get some ray tracing available in some of the new titles, I'm sure that will be amazing. But at the moment, since nothing actually does any ray tracing, it's probably worth hanging on for a while. Prices are probably not going to go up at all, but they might come down after the hype's gone. Yeah, hey Paul, just getting I'm not getting more FPS, I have to say. I'm getting better quality for the same. I expected my FPSs to rise. I thought I would go from, I was sitting at about 30, and I thought they would go up to maybe 40 or 45 at the level, but what actually happened is they remained pretty much the same, and they seem to be more affected by the sliders, by the object slider. That seemed to make a lot more impact than previously. Because when we're looking at the 11.25 release, they were telling us that, okay, now you can have all the objects that you like, and they won't be, or be very negligible FPS hit on your system, mate. So that seems to have changed a little, because it seemed to knock my FPS around a fair bit, and it added about 800 meg to my graphics on the video card. So they seem to be offloading some of that to the video card now, which they didn't before. As you remember, the right hand sliders are CPU predominantly, but it's certainly now affecting the GPU, so I don't think that's as true anymore. Hope that answers your question, mate. Thanks for making the comment. You're actually my first person to comment, mate, so thanks for that. Only done a few little short live streams. It's something a little bit new to me, but it's certainly a bit of fun. So we're heading down south here of Adelaide, and if you keep going all the way down, then you find there's Kangaroo Island down there. The full official release for 11.3, I'm sure that's probably a month or something away. They'll go through a number of betas before they get to that point, I would think, mate. So I haven't got a date for you. I don't know. This is one we'd probably go, I reckon we'll go a week or so, and then we'll probably get another beta as they get information in and work on any bugs that show up, and then from there I'm sure they will they'll probably do a couple more before they give us a full release. There's a lot happening in this, so I expect it might take them a little while, mate. So yeah, you have a great day, and go on and enjoy your trip, mate, on the bus. We'll catch you again soon. So heading down south of Adelaide. There's a winery area down this as well, and the hills run all the way down, so there's a southern winery area if you like your plonk. One of the main southern highways down here. We're going to have to try and find Aldinga. I'm used to coming in from over the hill, so let's have a look and see if it's on here or not. What's the symbol for it? YSCC? I think that'd be pretty close, but it certainly doesn't sound right. We've got lots of... Oh, let's 20 YSCC. Let's go over there and have a look. I honestly don't remember offhand the abbreviation for it, but I wouldn't expect it to be over to the left. So I'm going to keep going. Look at the water down there. That looks nice. It's nice to have, you have the edges and you just don't have that border around where the water is. We'll move over a little bit to the right here. We should be able to see it because the actual airport isn't that far in from the coast, and it's south of this town, so could be down here somewhere. We'll have a look anyway. Don't need to get... what are we sitting? We're just under 3,000 feet. We haven't been very genuine in our altitude control today. It's certainly pumping out a fair bit of auto scenery for us. That's looking pretty good. Lots of sporting grounds and trees. Let's, I think what we need to do, let's try some of the performance of the aircraft. That's what we really need to do. So let's have a look at some of the rolls, the rolling performance of it, and what it's like when we do roll it. So let's just roll it, slide out a little bit, slide back in the chair. Got a fair bit of power on. So let's try a gentle turn. Let's put ourselves into something gentle. And this is probably a little bit more than gentle. Let's just let the stick go and see what happens. It's falling away. Yeah, not correcting itself. Most aircraft would just come back to somewhere about the middle. But when you roll, that's what gets me. Is it feels like it takes effort to get there, which is just a little different. Before it was very easy. It would just roll over like a game, if you like, as opposed to a simulation. And I think this has made some really good improvements on that. And when we roll back, we'll face the sea, and then we'll roll back and we'll go to the right. So I got full stick, and that's really smooth as it comes around. We try and maintain our altitude. And need a little bit of right rudder in there actually. The ball's just a little bit off. That's rolling around pretty nice, and that's 27 FPS at the moment as we roll around here. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Alright, let's keep ourselves heading down here and see if we can find the airport. I know I came over the hills, and it might be in this area. It's not that far from where the hill line is over there to the left. It's the Adelaide Hills. They've run basically north-south of the city. You guys all got planned for the weekend out there, guys? You doing a bit of flying? There we are. Aldinga's just off to our nose, ADG. So we are heading in the right direction. It's going to be down here. It's an interesting airport to land at because they fly friendly, if you like. They tend not to overfly the town. So some of the runways you do right circuits, and the other way you do left circuits. So you've got to know which way is which and which way the wind's coming from. The wind is a little bit southerly. It's probably just, it's 160, so we'll pick an appropriate runway when we arrive. If we find one that just lines up, we'll just run straight in and put ourselves down there, I think is probably the best thing. So I don't know if you notice it here, but the textures here are a little bit darker than normal. I did have the NVIDIA control panel set to my own liking, but I put it back to default just to see what it was going to look like, because it was a lot darker than this the way I had it set up. So it's looking a lot nicer. It's a little bit more towards a fawn. It's a little bit, looks a bit aged as opposed to what it was before. It looked a lot creamier and a lot newer, I guess is how I would call it, I guess. Looking for an airport. Anybody spotted yet? It's still off our nose. You can see it over here on the GPS. We'll descend a little bit as well. And we'll head down. See what the scenery looks like as we get a little bit lower. This is 16, I think, zoom level 16 down here. I didn't do a high level for this particular area. The hills look really good, and we can see some of the, looks like the reservoirs over here. It'll be interesting. Fly low level through the hill. That's a good fun flight. Let's head on down. Where are we? There's our airport. 20, so it's still a little way away. It's deceptive how far south of Adelaide City it really is. I think we'd normally pop over the hills over about here, because Goolwa, which is another place that I flew to on a number of occasions, that we would go down there. We would come from Goolwa across to here on occasion as well. Oh, we have an aircraft there flying in. What is that? I don't know what it is. I can't scroll down to have a look. Anyway. I don't know if that's one I put there, or one that is generated by X Plane. I tend to leave a trail of aircraft around. Well, we've got that green grass strip, or we can come in past the hangars. I think we might do a left. We'll join left base here. We'll get some descending done. Bring the nose up. The power's all the way back. Very convenient. You can see it has a cross pattern, and then there's a couple of other smaller ones here. There's a good, as I say, there's a good cafe that you can go visit. There's also you can go steerman flights. They have a steerman here, so you can sit with your friend, 2 people, and you can go flying. I'm not going to make that. Let's go around. Way too fast and way too quick. The heights are okay. Let's just circuit around. Yeah, you can go for a fly in the steerman there. The pilot sits at the back, and I think passengers sit at the front. And you can go flying around there. It's Adelaide biplanes, I think it might be. Okay, we can have a stage of flap, a little bit of back trim. Looking for that airport. Come around again. There we go, looking a little bit nicer now. Back on the power. Not feeling the wind, but the wind is probably protected, or we're protected probably by the hills over here. Let's keep this down. Fairly narrow little runway. Again, this is another airport that I've built. I've built most of the small ones for myself over a period of time. If you ever want any of these guys, just leave me a message and I'll get a link for you, and you can just download them from Dropbox if you want. You'll need to get a few libraries. You'll just hold that up. Oh, that feels really good. No squealing, no carrying on. Get the brakes on. Hey, impressed with that. That felt really, really different. That's much different to what we've had in the past. Normally it's all over the place. So let's put the flaps up, and we'll just come out on the grass. We're going to need some more power. And we'll turn around and head back. Yeah, normally head over, come in over that little spot there when we come back. I'll get a bit of right. It's a busy little airport at times, and a bit to see there, but it's very green too during the winter. with all the grass and stuff. So hey, if anybody's got any questions, let me know. As I say, I will have a video out, should be tomorrow, on Ortho for XP, just an update on that one. So if there's something you might want to do for that, if you're living in the UK and you've already bought Orbix, then you can just ignore everything I said, because that's looking really fantastic. That looks really great. Seen a number of people flying that in VR recently, and yeah, that's really good. Be nice if they did that for Australia, but it's probably going to cost $10,000 to buy it or something if it's for all of Australia. Here we go. We check out left and rights. Try and keep ourselves on the runway. Oh. Power off, and we'll take my little taxi into the left here, guys. Got a taxiway here. Yep. I think I'll build a cement one for here. All these airports, you can take ownership of a hangar if you want. There's always empty hangars. Lock yourself inside it and just save the location, and you can start your flights up from your own private hangar if you want. Always possible here. Need a little bit of power. Seems a little distorted. What's going on there? Yeah, that's a bit better. I've lost the ability to use my keyboard. I think my keyboard's turned off. I need a new one of those as well. Alright. Got a few strays parked here. Head down here. We've got the petrol tanks. We might just pull over here into the grass and call it a day. Well, there we are, guys. There's our first flight in 11.3 Beta 1. Certainly feels a lot smoother. It is the flight characteristics of the aircraft. It feels like it has weight now, something it did not have before. Really, it didn't seem to have that. What do you call it? I'm looking for a word. It just feels thicker than it was before. Before it would just roll quite easily, and yes, the wind would have an effect on it, but this feels like it has a bit more weight, so that's really good. We've got particle system to check out yet, and ATC to check out and see how that goes. That sounds like it's pretty good, and checking the clouds out as well, guys. So lots of little things to check out and watch how they improve and how the performance improves over the next few betas before we get to the full release. So as always, if you've enjoyed the video, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Love to hear from you doing that. Leave me a message if you like. If you would like any of the airports I've got, lots of airports for South Australia, as well as around Florida as well. I've made a number of those. If you happen to live in that area, I haven't done anything in the UK as yet, but yeah, we might do some over that way as well. So until next time, have a really great weekend, and I will catch you again back here at Let's Fly VFR, guys, and have a great day. Bye bye.